Welcome to another camera channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to build this rig for your Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K or 4K. Yes, this is the rig that I use on a daily basis for work, for personal stuff, for everything. I feel that this is a really nice setup, and I recently showed some pictures on the Frame Voyager Discord of this rig, and people were saying it's nice and clean and stuff like that, and I thought, why not make a video showcasing all the parts and how it's built. There are some extra things on here that I don't typically use all the time, but I do go into explanation about that. But I really like this rig. It's compact. You usually can keep most of the parts on it while I'm transporting it. It can fit into my camera bags really well. And yeah, it's just done so much for me that I wanted to show you guys how to build it. What I really like about this rig is that I can use it on my Easy Rig, and that's how I do a lot of my work. It's easy to put on and off a tripod. I can take parts off and put it on a gimbal very, very easily. And the screen is a big part for me, the way it's fully articulated and, you know, angleable, if that's a word. So I can, you know, easily get the shot I need quickly and efficiently without having to, you know, remove parts from my rig and stuff like that. If you are interested in buying any of these parts, all the links will be in the description box below. There'll be Amazon affiliate links. So if you want to support the channel, buy the parts through there and maybe build this rig along with me while watching this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So first you need to get your camera. Here is my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. And on the side here, you can see that I've removed the plastic tabs or the rubber tabs off the side which protect the ports. I find that they don't really do that much, especially when this is in a cage. So I take them off because, especially when this camera is in the cage, it actually makes it harder to start plugging things in. So if you want to remove them, like me, go ahead. If you don't, you can leave them on, but it may be more annoying. So first off, we need to add the cage. And the cage is probably the most important part. And as I said before, all the parts and numbers will be in the description with links. And with this cage, you will get 2 sets of screws. You might actually get some spares as well. So you're gonna have a single screw like this. This is gonna be your top screw. And then you're gonna have this one here, which has like a metal bracket on it. And this is your bottom screw. And you need to put these on kind of like at the same time. So don't do the top one up really tight and then start doing the bottom one. You have to kind of do them evenly to not over tighten them. And the best thing is, with this cage, if you look at the bottom here, we have the tool that we need to actually put this all together. So take that tool out, if you don't already have one, and let's put the cage on the camera. So insert it in like this, very carefully. I'm gonna start with the top screw. Just lightly put it in, give it like a little bit of a turn, just so it holds in place. I'm gonna take my bottom screw here, and if you turn it over, you have this shape right here, and that's where you're gonna have to put it in. So it can only go in one way. You can't really get this wrong. So it goes in like that, and it's gonna stop it from rotating. So do that one up now. So do a couple turns, and then go back up to the top. Do a couple more turns on the top, and then back to the bottom again. And you're gonna feel it pull the camera into place, and that's why you want it even and not all the way up at the top or not all the way at the bottom. So there we go. Once that's done, give a nice couple turns. There we go. Okay, cool. So now the cage is on the camera, and this is gonna protect it from any kind of bumps or hits that you might have it. And it also gives a nice little grip for your hand as well as all these holes and places to attach more accessories. And this is the main point of having a cage, is so you can attach more things to it. The first thing we're gonna do is add the HDMI and USB-C cable holders. Now, I've seen people not use these, and again, it's not like an essential thing, but I think this is a good investment to have because you don't really want your HDMI cables to get pulled or broken. So this will fit on this side here, and it will go into these holes right on this side here. So just add it on, line it up, and screw it in. And these screws don't come out. Don't tighten it too much because that's actually how it holds the cables in place. So you kind of have to have them half tight, and this will kind of be loose when there's nothing in place. But you'll notice later on, if you add an HDMI cable in and a USB-C cable, and you can tighten it up, and all the way up, this part is basically gonna move in and clamp that cable really tight and hold it in place. So this is the next part. So after you've done that, we're gonna add the top handle. I love a top handle. This also has an integrated tool inside here, just in here. It's a slightly smaller hex key than the other one, but it's just kind of helpful for tightening and loosening this part down here if it ever gets stuck for whatever reason. I really like this top handle because it has a bunch of cold shoe mounts on it, and it also has, you know, like other types of mounts, which I don't use personally, like ARRI locating pins and stuff, but it has a rod holder here and also this little square hole here, which I personally use. This 15mm rod hole is going to come very much in handy later, as you'll see, and this is super easy to do. It's basically a NATO clamp rail attachment, which we also have on the side of the camera here. So we could actually attach the handle on the side here if we wanted to. So if you have other like accessories, you can add them here. We're not going to add the handle to the side. We're going to add it on the top here. So it's either easy, just slide it on. Make sure it's obviously loosened before you do that. And just add it to the top here. And then just give it a tighten. And to be honest, tighten it with your hands perfectly enough. Your hands are probably strong enough to do it. And you may find when you add more accessories, you may want to reposition this to the left or to the right to get that balance right. But yeah, very easy to do. Just give it a little loosen. Next will be the SSD holder. And this is an adjustable one, which kind of can take nearly all types of SSDs. So we're talking the Samsung SSDs, talking SanDisk SSDs, and probably some other brands too. I don't actually know any of the other ones. But the good thing about this one is it stretches out like this. So you can get quite a sizable SSD in there. And the largest one I have is this SanDisk E81. E80 is also the same size, but you can see here that holds it really well. And the good thing about this is the part that holds the USB-C cable in place is also adjustable. So with this design, the USB-C port is in the middle of the SSD, but on the other models that I use, like the E60 and E61, the USB-C slot is actually on the end. I like to put my SSD holder on the left-hand side with the USB-C portion pointing towards the top handle. So it's very easy to do. It just uses this cold shoe mount part here, slide it on here, and then tighten it up. There you go. And I think that's pretty much everything you would need to do any simple stuff if you didn't have an external monitor. Now we're going to start adding some parts which I feel help in certain situations. So starting off with an additional cold shoe mount. You may feel like, why would you ever want to do that? Well, because all the cold shoe mounts are typically now, well, the one is being used by the SSD holder, and the other ones on the handle, if you start using an easy rig, these are going to not be usable anymore. So adding an extra on with one of these like offset cold shoe mounts, really easy, really useful. So I'm just going to add it onto the side here, onto these three holes right above our function buttons. What you can do is just space out the screws in this slidey part here. So I'm just going to do that right now. So again, just kind of tighten them up all together. So little few turns on this one, back in another few turns on the next one, and so forth. And what I do find is this one sometimes does loosen itself. I think it kind of, if it gets pulled, it can kind of torque the screws out a little bit and loosen them over time. So you may find it gets loose and stuff, but there you go. That's added on here. So this is an extra cold shoe mount. I find it useful to put stuff like a Rode Wireless Go or something like that, or even a Video Mic Pro or something on this side. So it's not in the way of anything on this side, because there's a lot of cables on this side. Not much going on this side of the cage or on the camera, apart from these buttons. So having this here, super, super useful. The next thing I'm going to do is we are going to build parts that are going to kind of connect down here and hold more things like the V-mount. Before we do that, we need to get one of these, which is our mount that we're going to use. And this is like a Manfrotto style mount. This is from Newer. I find that this is pretty good, actually. You might even have some of these lying around in your house if you already had another camera system. I purposely bought new ones just for this build. And it's very nice because this mount style is kind of everywhere. You can just add this onto another type of tripod head and you know, quick release, easy, very good. What you will notice is there is one big screw and one smaller screw. So this is useful because on the bottom of the cage, right in the center, we have a large screw at the back and a smaller screw at the front. So do bear that in mind when you're using tripod plates, that you will need ones which have the bigger one and the smaller one in it. So we're going to attach that on now first, because this is going to attach onto our tripods, it's going to attach onto our gimbals, and it's also going to attach onto the larger part later on, which holds the V-mount battery. So I'm going to use this little SmallRig tool here, SmallRig multi-tool, and it's pretty good. It's not the best thing in the world, but it works. It has kind of lots of different types of you know, attachment heads that you can use. So I'm going to use this flat point because we're doing up these tripod screws, but you could also just use a coin if you have, or something flat. So again, same style as earlier. One screw, then the other, and then work back and forth, because you don't want to start jamming one end in quicker. And with this, I usually put the tripod, I usually put this plate mainly towards the back. So there's a bit more space at the front, because a lot of the weight's going to be on this side. I find that that works better to do it that way. So there we go. This is pretty much complete in terms of the go-to. Obviously, there's no cables on this yet, but this is like a little go-to. You know, slap a lens on here, you can get it on a tripod. You can add your SSD and whatever accessories you need, and this works really well. Now, this is going to come in handy very, very soon. So what we need is now, I'm going to set this off to the side because we don't need this anymore. So this is the next part we're going to use, and this, I actually used different equipment the first time I tried to do this. And I found that this one was slightly better. So this is basically a 15mm rod holder, and this is going to allow us to attach the V-mount battery on there, and also lens supports if we want it. And this will attach this mount, so we can easily attach and detach our camera. And like before, we have a big screw and a little screw. So we have to get that round the right way. So it looks like that the big screw is on the front, little screw is on the back. Let's get that round the right way. There is a big screw in this already because I took this apart. And so let's put it on now. So again, like I said before, screw a little bit in, then screw the next one. So we're gonna line it up here. Make sure this is nicely aligned. You can kind of do the first turns with just your fingers. There we go. And then you can use the tool and do the rest of it. So a little bit at the back, a little bit at the front, a little bit at the front. Okay, so that part is done. So now we can add our rods. And the rods I'm using here are these 30cm metal rods. You do get the option to use other types of metals or materials, like this carbon fiber or aluminium and stuff. You know, you can try and save weight by using a different type. I probably wouldn't go for carbon fiber on this one because it's going to hold a lot of weight with the batteries. But if you did use carbon fiber, I mean, it's not like it's going to break most likely, but it will definitely like lessen the load. So easy to put in 15mm rods, just slide them in and you can tighten them up here like that. And we're just going to put them in roughly for now because we'll have to reposition them very soon. And there we go. And just to demonstrate what it looks like, you can have your assemble plate here and you just slide it in. And then you tighten it up with this red knob here. That's pretty cool, right? Very cool. So this will house a lot of stuff. So next we're going to build the thing that's going to hold our batteries. I use batteries like this most of the time. So this is from Gen Energy. This is the 195 watt-hour battery. They also make larger ones than these, and they also make smaller ones than these. And there is another company called FX Lion, which makes these very, very cute little batteries. Exactly the same, you just get less DTAP ports out of it. This only has one, but it also has more like USB options here. Very cool. You can actually power a MacBook off this battery, which is really cool. This watt hours, how many watt hours is it? It's 100 watt hours, so it's like half the capacity of this bigger one, and probably about half the weight. So if you want smaller batteries, you don't want a massive battery on your rig, you can easily go for a different brand like this. So I'm going to use this one for now as we're showing the normal big rig. So we need something which is going to hold the V-mount, and they attach with this V-mount here. There's lots of different styles and lots of different ways you could do this. And the way I do it is I don't want the battery to be obstructing the screen, so I have it off at a slanted angle away. Because I built this rig a long time ago, recently some companies have come out with kind of adjustable angle like V-mount battery holders, which is cool. Haven't tried them, so maybe you should look into one of those instead of the way that I do it. My way is a bit annoying and finicky. So basically what I have is this kind of, it's a 50mm rod clamp, but it's at an angle. And as far as I know, I can't find this sold separately, but it is part of a shoulder rig kit from SmallRig. And I bought the shoulder rig kit pretty much just to get this part on the second time round. So what I do is I have this flat V-mount battery clip like this, like V-mount holder here. And this basically, you push it in, clip it on, and you can attach this basically to anything and it's gonna hold the battery. The problem with like these holes here is that if the screws kind of stick out at any distance, you can't put the battery on. So you have to use these kind of in little troughs here. So what I do is I want the battery to be pointed, attached this way, like this. So I have to use this groove here. So what we're gonna do is attach this groove onto this plate using some screws and some nuts. Now this is not normal equipment or not normal pieces of rig that you'll be using, so you'll have to source these screws from somewhere. I think I got these from like a big set of a bunch of stuff, which is just basically the same size of these. But all the links will be in the description. But basically what we're gonna do is just put these two together like this, and then add the screw through, and then we have to just add the nut on the other side and tighten it up as best we can. And that's literally the only way to attach it, like the way I do it. So if you want maybe a more convenient way, maybe use one of those adjustable angle ones. Unfortunately, when I was building my rig, they didn't exist, so I couldn't do it. But literally just hand tightening this is pretty nearly enough. Then just tighten it up a little bit with the tool here, and it will basically, you know, friction will do the rest of the job for you. So a little tighten here. There we go. And then we would attach it onto the back of the rig down here. So just slide it on. And then tighten up these two knobs here. And there we go. And that's what would hold the battery. And then it's very easy to get the battery and just clip it on. And that ain't gonna go anywhere. So it might look a bit strange that we're kind of like resting some of the weight on the battery here, but to be honest, I've done this for well over a year and nothing bad has happened. So you can be rest assured that this is a pretty easy way of attaching the battery, if you can get that part. I like it. I got full access to the screen, nothing's in the way, nothing's blocking my hand, and you know, all the weight's at the back. It's not sticking up in the air. This is personally the way I like to do it. So let's move on to another part, and that's gonna be the screen. Now, a lot of people want to mount screens in different ways. Some people like to put them on the top panels. I've seen people put them on the sides of the cage, but the way I like to do it is I like to use a rod and a bunch of rod clamp stuff, accessories to attach my screen. And the screen I use is this Portkeys HH7. Fantastically nice screen. I like the colors that are on it. It doesn't seem like oversaturated or too like far from what I see on the back of the screen on this one, on the camera. And I went through a little scare before because I thought they stopped making them, but it was just a shortage on Amazon. So you can pick one of these up. It's very bright. It's bright enough to be outside, viewable outside in sunlight. There are brighter screens on the market now though. So I'm kind of looking at the OC T7, I think it is, which is like 3,000 nits or something like this, but this is like 1,200 nits or something like that. But it's really great screen. I got a couple of these. Really fantastic. I actually damaged this one slightly. It got rubbed in the bag, so got a little bit of a color change on here, but it works pretty well. So the things we're going to be using for this is this swivel and tilt mount from SmallRig, and I really, really recommend this. This is one that would attach on with screws, so you could actually attach this directly onto the cage or anything else with screw holes, but we're going to be attaching it onto this 15mm rod clamp with screw holes. That's the important part. There's lots of 15mm rod clamps which don't have these screw holes on it, or they have like a different style on here. So it's very important you get this one, because these will line up and you can attach them on there. And you want to attach them kind of away from this this knob here, so you have full control. And it's good. Just wait. Let's attach them on. So you're gonna have a couple of screws, attach them into the holes like this, and then getting that tool, those SmallRig tools. And what you'll find is, as you've bought so many SmallRig products by now, you're gonna have about 50 of these. You're gonna have so many, but at least you always have spares. That's the good thing. So there we go, just tighten it up. Like I said before, one side then the other side. Not doing too much bias on one side or the other. And then turn this around, give it a bit more of a tighten. Okay, that's cool. And the good thing is yeah, just slide in your rod here, SmallRig here. I'm gonna slide it in like this. This is a carbon fiber one, just to save on weight, and this is so much lighter than the metal rods. And because the screen already adds weight, we don't want to be adding too much more weight, like hanging down to pull it off to the side. So this is a really good solution. And then with the screen, you just screw it onto the mount, and that's super easy. As you can see here, screw and screw, put it on. And what I really like about this mount, this screen mount in particular, like I said before, you can tilt it and you can also rotate it. So if you want to show someone or tilt it towards someone or turn it around completely, it's very easy to do that. And some of the other mounts, you have to be careful because they won't have the rotate part. They only have the tilt. That's not enough sometimes. If your screen has a bad viewing angle, which this doesn't, but some screens do have bad viewing angles, if you can't rotate it around towards you, like if I'm using it on an easy rig and I'm facing this way, but I'm obviously filming this way, I want to look down this way. If I can't rotate the screen like this, I may be looking off angle, my framing might be bad, so definitely this is like the best monitor mount in my opinion. I love it. So there we go. This is what it looks like so far. It's pretty good, pretty good. Obviously we're missing all the cables. We haven't added any of the cables yet, but there's still more to go. So we're going to take this screen off for now. I'll take the battery off. You may have to move the camera actually a bit forward sometimes to be able to take it off when the battery's attached, but you'll work that out yourself. So there we go, push the button in. This is a tripod plate that I got with my tripod, so yours may be different, but it is a Manfrotto style again. So what we're gonna do is add this to the bottom of this one, because at the moment there's nothing on here. So I'm using a Manfrotto plate. You might not be using a Manfrotto plate, but again, as before, we have a big screw and a little screw. And on here, we have a big screw hole and a little screw hole. So big screw front, little screw back. Let's attach it on. Little screw here, little screw here. It's very, very simple to do. With this one, I'm putting more of the weight bias kind of, I guess, on the back, because when we put a very heavy lens on the front, it will balance out with the battery weight. Okay, there we go. So this is ready to go straight onto a tripod. And what's really good is if you use a gimbal or whatever, you can easily just, you know, slip it off this part. Don't need the V-mount most likely. Take off the top handle if you want. That's what I usually do. Slap that on a gimbal and it works perfectly fine. Having this kind of modularity is helpful, that you don't have to like remove this plate then add another plate or whatever like that. It's too annoying. Or if you had your V-mount attaching to this permanently and your gimbal does not take the weight of a V-mount, or the whole setup for or whatever like that, it's harder to use. So super, super easy. Super, super easy. So let's do that up again. And what's nice about these is they actually, a lot of these connectors like ratchet, so you can just kind of pull it out and rotate it to get better kind of grip on there. So that's really useful. Right, so let's talk about lens supports now. So we have these two lens supports. And you might be wondering why I have two different sizes of lens supports, and that's because the lenses that I use, which is a Sigma 18-35 and a Sigma 50-100, are differently sized, so they need different sized lens supports. This one is for the bigger one, this one is for the smaller one. This one definitely has more height, reach, and stuff like that. You could probably get away with just using this big one. I find that if you attach this on, you're gonna start like raising the whole rig off the ground, but just off this little point here, which some people like because it can kind of help support everything. But if you don't do this up, you might be putting too much pressure up onto your lens. So for example, let's get a lens. So loosen this up. Touch it on. Now we want this obviously not to obstruct the zoom or the focus, so let's get it in the right place. Push it up. Tighten it. And then tighten these as well. And there we go. So that is a lens support. You probably don't need a lens support for this 18-35, to be honest. In reality, I hardly ever even attach these. I only do when I see that there's like a problem of some kind. So if I feel like there's too much pressure on the lens in some way, then I would add a lens support to kind of help that out. But generally, I don't really do that because I'm not using follow focuses or anything. I'm just using my hands to focus or pull focus. So I don't really use them. But let's put this screen back on. And let's attach some cables. So put the battery on as well. There we go. So in terms of cables, we have an HDMI cable here. I've used coiled HDMI cables because when you're doing short distances, they can be short. And when you're doing longer distances, they can be stretched out, obviously. These are the USB-C cables I use. They're from Fastgear. They're like 10 gigabits per second. USB-C cables, very reliable. I've never had a problem with these at all. I've been using them a lot. But if you saw my video on cable management up here, you'll know that I like to use some forms of cable management. And you can use these little clips here. These are the sprig clips. You can go watch the episode more explaining what these do, but they basically just can screw into any of these little screw holes and allow you to just run your cables a bit more nicely. So they just screw in like there. Yeah, you can just push them in and then you screw them out. There you go. HDMI, we can clip it around the rod. And then into the camera. Like that. And then with the USB-C cable, I usually put the Fastgear end into the camera, and then I run this through over the handle or through the handle. So I'm gonna put the Fastgear end in. And now that both of these are in that clamp, I can tighten them up. There we go. That's not going anywhere. And you can just run this basically through. Spin this around so you can see. There's a hole just above the 15mm clamp hole, and you can run and pass the USB-C cable through there. And that's generally what I do all the time. And then it will line nicely up with the SSD holder here. So it'll go through like that. So if I get my SSD and then time it up like that. Very, very easy. Okay, the only things left to do are to add these onto the V-mount battery, and as I have two D-tap connections on my V-mount battery, I can easily add these two onto my battery. If I didn't, you can use something like a D-tap splitter and add like 4 extra D-taps on there. Now this longer one is for the screen, so I usually wrap this around a few times. So I'm gonna put this on here. I'm gonna wrap this around, just make sure it's long enough to go into the back here. Obviously, you might have a different screen to me. So whatever you need to do to attach power to your screen, just do whatever that is. And then this one is a coiled power cable, and this is for the camera. So put it in this side, and then you can use different forms of cable management if you want, or you can just wrap it around the rods. And attach it onto you. So there we go. That is essentially how I build my rig. I need to add this back into the hole it came from on the bottom of this. Okay, so this is it. This is the finished rig. Super easy to use. Originally, I did actually have a shoulder rig. I still do, but I don't really use it that much. But basically, it still uses Manfrotto kind of plates. So what you'd essentially do is attach this on, and then you'd have like a very large shoulder rig, and the screen is then repositioned to the front with some arms. But I don't really use it that much. So if you want to see that, leave a comment down below, and I'll make a video specifically about that shoulder rig. But then again, I don't use it that much, so maybe you wouldn't either. I find that shoulder rigs are a little overrated, as I tend to use my Easy Rig way more, and I prefer the look that gives me anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching this video about how to make this rig. If you have any questions about this, or any advice that you want about what you want to do for your rig, if there's something I haven't already covered, I think this covers most of the kind of things I need out of a rig, in terms of being able to add more stuff on, you know, all my SSDs and stuff, everything's very safe, extra space for microphones and stuff like that, and works on an Easy Rig, can take it off and use on the gimbal. So that's pretty much my like wish list of what I want out of a rig, and it's covered. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. If you want to build it, all the parts will be listed down below. They're all Amazon affiliate links, and if you buy from those links, it helps me out too. So, you know, win-win for everyone. So if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, maybe one about that shoulder rig, then leave a comment down below, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.